10 days. That's all it takes. Not 10 years. Not 10 months. 10 days to become someone your old self wouldn't even recognize. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the right moment, the right mood, the right circumstances, and they die as a rough draft of who they could have been. That ends today. What you're about to hear is not motivation. It is not inspiration. It is a surgical blueprint for dismantling the version of you that has kept you small, kept you comfortable, and kept you invisible. You don't need more time. You don't need more resources. You need a decision. Make it now. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Kill who you were yesterday. There is a version of you that needs to die today. Not tomorrow. Not when things get easier. Not when you feel ready. Today. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. The person you keep calling yourself, that comfortable, familiar identity you wake up with every morning, is not who you are. It's who you were. And who you were is holding a knife to the throat of who you could become. This is chapter 1. And before we go anywhere else, we need to handle this first. Because if you don't kill the old version of you, it will kill every dream you've ever had. Quietly, patiently, and with a smile on its face. Let's get into it. Identity is a costume, not a cage. Most people walk around treating their identity like it's carved in a stone, like it was handed down from God on a mountain somewhere and cannot be questioned. That's just who I am. I've always been this way. I'm not a morning person. I'm bad with money. I'm not the type of person who... Stop. Just stop. Who you are is not a fact. It is a habit. Your identity, everything you call yourself, is nothing more than a collection of repeated behaviors, repeated thoughts, and repeated excuses that you've performed so many times they started to feel like truth. That's it. That's the whole secret. You didn't discover yourself. You practiced yourself. And what you practiced, you can stop practicing. The moment you understand this, you become dangerous. Because it means the cage was never locked. You just kept choosing to stay inside it. Who you were yesterday has no authority over who you become today. Read that again. Let land. Your past does not have a vote in your future unless you keep handing it the ballot. You are not your history. You are your decision. Right now, in this moment. That's the key. You have a choice. The comfort of a known self is the enemy of a better one. Here's where science backs up what your gut already knows. The brain is a pattern recognition machine. It defaults to the familiar because familiar is efficient. Your brain does not care if your habits are good or bad. It cares if they are known. Known equals safe. Safe equals survival. But survival is not transformation. And here's the brutal irony. The very thing protecting you is the thing destroying you. That comfortable, known version of yourself. The one that drinks too much, quits too early, shrinks in rooms, avoids the hard conversation. Your brain is defending that version of you like it's precious, like it's worth protecting. It is not. Think about every person you've ever admired who completely changed their life. The recovered addict who built a business. The overweight person who became an athlete. The broken, defeated individual who clawed their way into something extraordinary. What did they all do first? Before the gym, before the business plan, before any external change, they stopped identifying with their past. They looked at who they had been, and they said, that is not me anymore. Not as wishful thinking, not as motivation, as a decision. Cold, final, non negociable. You are not your history. You are your decision. That's the key. Identity shifts when you stop giving your past permission to define your present. You don't need their permission, not your family's, not your friends, not your old selves, to become someone new. The only permission you need is your own, and you can get it right now. It's not about who you've been. It's about who you decide to be from this second forward. You have a choice. Day 1 starts with a funeral. Now here's where most self-help content goes soft. They tell you to visualize your future self. They tell you to make a vision board. They tell you to think positive. That's not what we're doing here. We're holding a funeral. Before you can build something new, you have to bury what's old. And I mean bury it. Consciously, deliberately, with the same gravity you'd give to something that actually mattered. Because this does matter. This might be the most important thing you do today. Here's your assignment. Right now, after this chapter, you're going to do what I call the identity funeral. Take a piece of paper, not your phone, paper, and you're going to write down explicitly, specifically, with no vagueness, every trait, every habit, every belief, and every excuse that you are permanently retiring. Not pausing, not taking a break from. Retiring. Done. Over. Dead. Write it like an obituary. Here lies the version of me that waited for the right moment. Here lies the version of me that let fear make every major decision. Here lies the person who needed validation before taking action. Here lies the excuse. Here lies the blame. Here lies the story I kept telling myself. Write them down. All of them. Then read it out loud. This is not symbolic. This is surgical. You are drawing a line in the sand and declaring, without apology, that everything behind that line is finished. The old you is dead. Act like it. Because here's what happens when you don't do this work. When you try to build a new life while still being the old person, you self-sabotage. You get close to something real and you destroy it. Not because you're weak, but because your identity is still loyal to the old version of you. The brain drags you back to what's familiar. And familiar, remember, is the enemy. The old you is dead. Act like it. This is not about hating who you were. It's about being honest enough to admit that who you were is not who you need to be. There's no cruelty in that. There's only clarity. You have a choice. You've always had a choice. You just killed the first lie, that you were ever stuck being who you were. Now, there's a new problem. Because once you decide to change, the world around you won't. The people in your life will resist. They will question. They will pull. And if you don't have the armor for it, they will drag you right back into that grave you just crawled out of. So now I need to talk about the one weapon that protects everything you just built. Chapter 2. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. There's a version of you that needs to die today. You buried the old you. Good. Now the world wants an explanation. Your friends want to know why you're acting different. Your family wants to know what's gotten into you. The people who've known you for years are suddenly uncomfortable, and they're looking at you with that look, that mix of confusion and quiet judgment, waiting for you to tell them what's going on, waiting for you to make them feel better about the fact that you're changing. Don't. Say nothing. Become everything. That's what this chapter is about. Because the need to explain yourself, to justify your transformation to the people around you, is one of the most dangerous traps you will ever fall into. And most people never even see it coming. Let's talk about why. Part 1. Explanation is permission-seeking in disguise. Every single time you tell someone your plan before you execute it, you are doing something you probably don't realize. You are asking for permission, not out loud. Not consciously, but underneath the words. Underneath, I'm thinking about starting a business and I've decided to quit drinking and I'm going to start waking up at 5 a.m. Underneath all of it is a question you're too afraid to ask directly. Is it okay if I change? That question will destroy you. Because here's the brutal truth. The people you're asking aren't qualified to answer. The people around you, your coworkers, your cousins, your childhood friends, even some of your family, they're not your board of directors. They don't have a stake in your future. They have a stake in their own comfort. And their comfort, more often than not, is built on the foundation of you staying exactly who you've always been. You don't need their permission. You never did. The moment you understand that explanation is just permission seeking with better packaging, you'll stop doing it. Because you'll see it for what it really is, not communication, not honesty, not vulnerability. It's insecurity dressed up in conversation. It's the old you looking for one more reason to hesitate. Silence is your strategy. Execution is your announcement. That's the key. You don't announce the chapter before you write it. You don't tell people about the meal before you cook it. You build. You execute. You deliver. And then, only then, the result speaks. Results don't need your help. Results don't need an explanation. Results are self-evident. You have a choice. You can talk about who you're becoming, or you can become it. Not both. Pick one. Part 2. The people who demand explanations are the people most threatened by your growth. Let me paint you a picture you've probably already lived. Someone in a group, a friend's circle, a family, a workplace starts to change. They start eating differently, waking up earlier, reading instead of scrolling, saying no to things they used to say yes to, carrying themselves differently. What happens next? The group pushes back. You think you're better than us now? Why are you being so serious lately? You've changed. Said like it's an accusation. Like changing is a betrayal. Like the person who decided to grow somehow owes the group a debt of sameness. This is one of the most consistent patterns in human behavior. And when you understand what's driving it, it stops hurting and starts becoming data. It's not hatred. It's fear. When you change, you hold up a mirror to everyone around you who hasn't. Your discipline indicts their excuses. Your progress makes their stagnation visible. Your refusal to stay the same is a silent reminder that staying the same is a choice, and they're making it every single day. Their discomfort with your growth is proof that the growth is real. Read that again. Let rewire something. The resistance you feel from the people around you is not a sign that you're wrong. It's a sign that you're right. It's calibration. It's confirmation. The moment someone tries to pull you back with guilt, with sarcasm, with "you've changed," that's your signal. That's the universe telling you, keep going. And here's what you must not do. You must not soften yourself to manage their feelings. You must not shrink back down to a size that makes them comfortable. You must not explain yourself endlessly, trying to get them to understand, trying to bring them with you, try to justify a decision that requires no justification. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear. You don't need their permission. Not to grow. Not to change. Not to become the person you've decided to be. Their approval is not a prerequisite. Their understanding is not a condition. You owe them your kindness. You do not owe them your potential. Their discomfort with your growth is proof that the growth is real. Say nothing. Become everything. You have a choice. 3. Let your results do the talking. Permanently. Here's your behavioral command for this chapter, and I need you to take this seriously. For the next 10 days, you're going on a communication fast. Not a social media detox, though that's part of it. A goals communication fast. Here are the rules. Simple. Non negociable. No posting about what you're working on. No telling friends about the plan. No explaining your new routine to your family over dinner. No sharing your vision with people who haven't earned the right to hold it. 0. Nothing. Silence. You wake up, you do the work, and you tell no one. For 10 days. Here's why this works. When you stop seeking external validation for your goals, something shifts internally. You stop working for their reaction and start working for your result. The goal stops being about proving something to someone and starts being about building something real. The energy you were burning on explanation gets redirected into execution. And execution compounds. Silence is your strategy. Execution is your announcement. Most people will never do this because the telling feels like progress. Sharing the plan feels like movement. Getting a "that's amazing" from someone in your comment section feels like fuel. But it's not fuel. It's a substitute for fuel. It's the cheap version of actual accomplishment. And if you keep choosing the cheap version, you will stay broke. Not just financially, but in every dimension that matters. It's not about staying quiet because you're weak. It's about staying quiet because you're building something too important to risk on someone else's opinion. That's the key. Protect the vision. Feed the work. Trust the process. And let the results arrive loud enough that no explanation was ever necessary. Say nothing. Become everything. Their discomfort with your growth is proof that the growth is real. So stop trying to make them comfortable. Stop explaining. Stop seeking. Go silent. Go to work. You have a choice. Make it. You killed your old identity. You sealed your mouth. You cut off the noise. Now you're going to face the hardest opponent you'll ever meet. Not the doubters, not the critics, not the people who want you small. The hardest opponent lives inside you, and it will fight you every single morning. It's time to learn how to win that fight before the day even begins. Chapter 3. Your environment is programming you. Redesign it now. You killed the old identity. You went silent. You stopped seeking permission. And now you're sitting in the same room, looking at the same walls, surrounded by the same people, scrolling the same feed, breathing the same air as the person you just declared dead. And you wonder why change feels impossible. This is Chapter 3, and this might be the most practical, immediately actionable chapter in this entire audiobook. Because what we're about to talk about doesn't require motivation. It doesn't require willpower. It doesn't require you to feel ready or inspired or locked in. It just requires you to look around, because your environment is programming you. Right now, every single day. And if you don't redesign it deliberately, it will design you by default, back into exactly who you used to be. Let's get into it. Part 1. The willpower lie. Here is one of the most damaging myths ever sold to people who want to change their lives. That willpower is the answer. That if you just want it badly enough, you'll push through. That discipline is a feeling you summon from somewhere deep inside. That the reason you keep failing is because you're not trying hard enough, not focused enough, not mentally strong enough. That is a lie, and it has cost you years. Here is the truth. Willpower is a resource, and like every resource, it depletes. Research is consistent on this. The ability to resist temptation, make hard decisions, and override impulse weakens throughout the day. By evening, the person who white-knuckled their way through the morning has almost nothing left. And the environment, unchanged, unchallenged, fully intact, moves in and takes over. Motivation fades in 72 hours. Environment lasts forever. Think about the last time you felt genuinely fired up to change. Maybe it was after a conversation, a video, a moment of painful clarity at 2 a.m. You felt it, that burning electric certainty that this time was different. This time you meant it. And then 72 hours passed, and the feeling faded, and the environment remained. The phone on the nightstand, the toxic group chat, the junk food in the cabinet, the same commute, the same evenings, the same inputs producing the same outputs. Because here's the cold reality. If your phone hasn't changed, your room hasn't changed, your social circle hasn't changed, and your daily inputs haven't changed, you haven't changed. You've had a feeling, and feelings without infrastructure are fantasies. Change your environment or your environment will change you back. That's the key. The people who sustain transformation are not the ones with the most willpower. They're the ones who built systems that make the right behavior the easy behavior. They stopped relying on motivation and started relying on architecture. You have a choice. Keep fighting your environment, or redesign it. Part 2. Every object is a vote. Look around you right now. Seriously, look at your physical space. What do you see? Because every single object in your environment is casting a vote. Every app on your home screen, every item on your desk, every person in your phone's recent calls, every show in your watch history, every object within arm's reach when you wake up in the morning. All of it is voting. And right now, most of it is voting against the person you're trying to become. This is not philosophy. This is behavioral science. Studies on environmental design have shown that something as simple as placing fruit on a kitchen counter, visible, accessible, right there, increases fruit consumption by nearly 70%. Not because people suddenly developed more discipline, because the environment made the right choice the obvious choice. Conversely, people with junk food visible and within reach consume it compulsively. Not because they're weak, but because the environment is deciding for them before their brain even engages. Your environment is not neutral. It is a voting machine, and you have been letting it vote without your consent. Design the space that produces the person. Think about what that means practically. The person who wants to read more, but keeps their phone on their pillow and their books in another room. Their environment has already decided what they're doing before bed. The person who wants to train, but keeps their gym clothes buried in a drawer. Their environment has already decided how the morning starts. The person who wants to think clearly, but has 17 notification apps pinging every 4 minutes. Their environment has already decided the quality of their focus. It's not about laziness. It's about architecture. Design the space that produces the person. Make the right behavior the default behavior. Make the wrong behavior require effort. Friction is your weapon. Use it. You don't need more motivation. You need a better room. You have a choice. Let your space design you, or design your space. That's the key. Part 3, the environment audit. Here is your concrete framework. 3 steps. No vagnis. No excuses. You're going to conduct a full environment audit, and you're going to complete it within 24 hours of finishing this chapter. Not this weekend. Not when you have more time. Tomorrow. Step 1. Eliminate 3 digital inputs. Go into your phone right now and identify 3 things that are feeding the old version of you. 3 accounts that make you feel small, distracted, envious, or numb. 3 apps that are consuming your attention and returning nothing of value. 3 notification sources interrupting your ability to think. Delete them. Unfollow them. Turn them off. Not temporarily. Permanently. The old you consume that content. The new you doesn't. Step 2. Remove 3 physical objects tied to old habits. Walk through your space and find 3 physical objects that are anchors to who you used to be. The junk food at eye level. The alcohol within easy reach. The gaming setup positioned as the centerpiece of your room. The clothes you wear when you've given up on the day. Remove them from your immediate environment. Put them away. Give them away. Throw them away. Out of sight is not out of mind, but it buys you the seconds of friction that save you from the decision. Step 3. Introduce 1 environmental anchor for the new identity. 1 object. 1 visual cue. 1 physical signal that tells your brain every time you see it who you are now. Your journal on the desk. Your running shoes by the door. A single phrase written and placed where you start your morning. This is not decoration. This is a trigger. Every time your eyes land on it, your nervous system receives a message. This is who I am now. Build the world that builds you. This is architecture, not aesthetics. This is not about making your space look pretty. It's about making your space work for you instead of against you. Every adjustment you make to your environment is a vote for the new identity. Every object you remove is a burial of the old one. Change your environment, or your environment will change you back. Design the space that produces the person. Build the world that builds you. You have a choice. And now you have the blueprint. You've buried the old identity. You've gone silent. You've redesigned the world around you. But here's what nobody warns you about. Once you start winning, once the change becomes visible, your own mind will turn on you. The self-sabotage will begin. The voice inside your head will get louder, not quieter. It's time to deal with that voice directly. Chapter 4. The version of you that's winning already exists. Step into them. You've done the work so far. You buried the old identity. You sealed your mouth. You redesigned your environment. You've been cutting away everything that belonged to who you were. Good. That was phase 1. Now we build. Because here's what most transformation content gets completely wrong. It spends all its time telling you what to stop doing and almost no time telling you what to step into. You can strip away the old identity all day long. But if there's nothing to replace it with, no clear, vivid, compelling image of who you're becoming, the void fills itself. And it fills with whatever is most familiar, which is exactly who you used to be. This is chapter 4. And this is where we stop subtracting and start constructing. Because the version of you that's winning, the disciplined, focused, unshakable version already exists. Not as a fantasy, not as a distant possibility, as a real, accessible psychological reality that you can step into right now. Let's build it. Part 1. You're planning from the wrong address. Here is the mistake almost every person makes when they try to change their life. They set goals from their current limitations. They sit down to plan their future, and they do it from inside the prison of who they currently are. They think about what they want to achieve and then immediately filter it through what they believe they're capable of, what they've done before, what people like them typically accomplish, what feels realistic given where they're starting. And the result is always the same. Small dreams, timid plans, incremental goals that don't scare them enough to actually move. Stop asking what you can do. Ask what they would do. That shift from you to them is everything. Because the highest performers on earth don't plan from their current reality. They make decisions from the perspective of the person they're becoming. They ask a different question entirely. Not what can I afford, but what would the version of me who already solved this choose? Not what do I feel capable of today, but what would they do in this moment? This is not delusion. This is precision. There is a version of you that wakes up without hitting snooze. That has the hard conversation without flinching. That invests before spending, moves before feeling ready, and speaks with the quiet confidence of someone who has already done the thing. That version of you is not imaginary. They are the logical, inevitable result of the decisions you make starting now. But you can't get to them by planning from where you are. You get to them by planning from where they are. Stop asking what you can do. Ask what they would do. That's the key. Make the decision they would make. Take the action they would take. Respond to the situation the way they would respond. Not eventually. Now, you have a choice. Plan from your limitations, or lead from your future. Part 2. Your future self is real. Treat them that way. This is not motivational fluff. This is neuroscience. Dr. Hal Hershfield, a researcher at UCLA, conducted a series of landmark studies on how the brain relates to the future self. What he found was both fascinating and immediately practical. For most people, the future self is processed by the brain in the same way as a stranger. Not as you, as someone else entirely. Someone distant, abstract, not quite real. And that explains everything. It explains why you raid the account you were supposed to save. Why you skipped the workout your future self was counting on. Why you eat the thing, say the thing, waste the hour. Because on a neurological level, you are not protecting yourself. You are failing a stranger. And humans are wired to prioritize the present self over the stranger every single time. But here's what Hershfield also found. When people were shown vivid, detailed, aged images of their future selves, when they could see them, interact with them, make them real, their financial decisions improved dramatically. Their long-term behavior changed because the brain, given a detailed enough image of the future self, begins to treat that person as real, as someone worth protecting, as someone whose life depends on today's choices. Your future self already made the decision. Catch up. That future version of you, the one who is disciplined, focused, and free, has already chosen. They chose the gym over the excuse. They chose the work over the distraction. They chose the silence over the noise. Every decision they made got them to where they are. And every decision you make right now is either closing the gap between you and them or widening it. Your future self already made the decision. Catch up. It's not about motivation. It's about identity alignment. When you make your future self real enough, vivid enough, specific enough, present enough, you stop making decisions as the old you and start making them as the new one. The gap closes, not because you forced it, because you finally started acting like the right person. That's the key. You don't need their permission to become who you're meant to be. You just need to start treating your future self as someone worth showing up for. You have a choice. Part 3. The Daily Identity Transfer. Here is your practice. 5 minutes. Every morning. Non negotiable. Before you check your phone. Before you speak to anyone. Before the day has a chance to pull you back into the old patterns, you do this. It is called the daily identity transfer, and it works in 3 parts. First, speak as them, out loud. Not in your head, out loud. Answer this question. Who am I today? Not who you were. Not who you're trying to be. Who you are. Speak it like it's already true. I am someone who does the work before I feel like it. I am someone who protects my focus like it's my most valuable resource. I am someone who keeps their word to themselves. Speak it. Hear it. Let your own voice deliver the instruction. Second, move as them. Before you leave the space you woke up in, take 2 minutes and move your body the way that person moves. Stand up straight, shoulders back. Breathe deliberately. Take up space. The body is not separate from identity. It is identity made physical. How you carry yourself sends constant signals to your nervous system about who you are. Change the posture. Change the signal. Change the state. Third, make one decision as them. One decision before the day begins. Make a choice, small or significant, that the future version of you would make. Drink water before coffee. Write 1 page before you scroll. Text the person you've been avoiding. Make the decision they would make. Because every time you do, you close the gap by 1 more inch. And inches become miles. Act as if, until it's simply as. This is not pretending. This is pre-living. You're rehearsing the identity before it fully arrives. And the rehearsal is what makes it arrive faster. Every morning you do this, you're sending your brain the same message. This is who we are now. And the brain, remember, believes what it's shown consistently. Act as if, until it's simply as. Your future self already made the decision. Catch up. Stop asking what you can do. Ask what they would do, and then do it. Right now, in this moment, with what you have, for where you stand. You have a choice. Keep living as the old version, or step into the one that's already winning. You've buried the past. You've gone silent. You've rebuilt your environment. You've stepped into the future self. But here's the problem. The day is long. The resistance is relentless. And there will come a moment every single day when the version of you that's winning and the version of you that wants to quit meet face to face. That moment happens in the morning. And whoever wins, that moment wins the day. It's time to talk about how to win it every time. Chapter 5. Destroy your excuses before they destroy your decade. You've stepped into the future self. You've done a morning practice. You've started making decisions from the identity you're building instead of the limitations you're leaving. And then it happens. The excuse shows up. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive wearing a sign that says, I am here to destroy your decade. It arrives quietly, reasonably, wearing the clothes of common sense. It sounds like wisdom. It feels like honesty. And if you don't know what you're looking at, you'll let it in. Every single time. This is chapter 5. And we're going to do something today that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. We're going to look your excuses directly in the face. Name them, dissect them, and kill them permanently. Because here's what nobody tells you about excuses. They are not passive. They are not harmless. They are not just words you say when things get hard. They are architecture. And right now, they are building something around you. Let's tear it down. Part 1. The excuse that became your ceiling. The first time you said, I don't have time, it was a statement. Maybe even an accurate one. You were busy. The day was full. There was genuinely more to do than hours available. Fine. But then you said it again, and again, and again. 10 times. 100 times. Every time a goal made a demand on your schedule. Every time an opportunity required sacrifice. Every time growth asked you to prioritize differently. The same sentence arrived. I don't have time. And here is what happened that you didn't notice. The statement became a belief. The belief became an identity. And the identity became a ceiling. You stopped even seeing the time that was available. You stopped questioning whether your priorities were aligned with your goals. You stopped asking the harder question, not do I have time, but what am I choosing to spend my time on instead? Because the excuse had already answered for you. automatically, without effort. Every single time. Every excuse you keep is a future you've already surrendered. That's the key. Excuses are not neutral. Every time you reach for one, you are making a transaction. You're trading a possible future for a comfortable present. You're choosing the relief of not trying over the risk of actually attempting. And that trade feels small in the moment. Reasonable even, but it compounds. The person who makes that trade every day for 10 years does not just have a habit. They have a life built around limitation. A life shaped, ceiling by every excuse they chose to keep. Every excuse you keep is a future you've already surrendered. It's not about circumstances. It's about the story you build around them. You have a choice. Keep the excuse, or keep the future. You cannot keep both. Part 2. The excuses that are partially true are the most dangerous. Now here is where it gets complicated. And here's where most people get stuck for years, sometimes decades, without ever understanding why. The most dangerous excuses are not the obviously weak ones. Not, I'm not in the mood, or it's raining, or I'll start Monday. Those are easy to identify, easy to override. You know they're weak, and somewhere beneath the surface you know you're choosing comfort. The dangerous excuses are the ones that are partially true. I grew up without money. True. I didn't have the right connections. True. My family didn't model healthy habits. True. I've been through things that set me back. True. Every single one of those statements may be factually accurate, and every single one of them is completely irrelevant to what you do next. True doesn't mean useful. Drop it. This is where the excuse becomes seductive, because it comes wrapped in legitimacy. It has evidence. It has history. It has the sympathy of everyone around you who knows your story. And so it doesn't feel like an excuse. It feels like wisdom. It feels like context. It feels like a reasonable explanation for why you are where you are. But feel that again. Where you are. Not where you're going. Where you are. The partial truth explains the past. It does not determine the future. And the moment you start using a true thing as a reason not to move forward, you have converted a fact into a prison. You have taken something that happened to you and handed it the keys to everything that comes next. True doesn't mean useful. Drop it. Think about every person who has ever come from nothing and built something extraordinary. They did not have fewer obstacles than you. Many of them had more. What they refused to do, what separated them from the people who stayed stuck, was use those obstacles as a permanent explanation for their limitations. They acknowledged the truth, and then they moved anyway. It's not about what happened to you. It's about what you decide to do next. You don't need the world to have been fair to you in order to move forward. You don't need your past to have been easier. You don't need circumstances to change before you do. You need to drop the excuse, even the true one, and take the next step. True doesn't mean useful. Drop it. You have a choice. Part 3. The Excuse Autopsy. Here is your exercise, and this one requires honesty at a level most people will never reach. That's exactly why most people never change at a level that actually lasts. You're going to conduct an excuse autopsy. Take a piece of paper. Write down your top 5 excuses, the ones you've been carrying the longest, the ones that show up most reliably when your goals make a demand on you, the ones you've told so many times they feel like facts. Write them all down, every one, and then, for each excuse, you're going to answer one question. One single, devastating question that cuts through every layer of justification and hits the thing underneath. The question is this: what would I have to believe about myself to stop using this excuse? Not what would have to change in the world. Not what resources you'd need. Not what circumstances would have to be different. What would you have to believe about yourself? Because that is where the real answer lives. I don't have time. What would you have to believe about yourself to stop using that? That your goals are worth rearranging your life for. That you are someone who prioritizes what matters. That your future is worth an hour today. I didn't have a right background. What would you have to believe? That background is context, not destiny. that you are capable of learning what you weren't taught, that where you started does not determine where you finish. Do this for every excuse on your list. Write the belief underneath each one, because that belief, the one you need to hold to drop the excuse permanently, is not a distant destination. It is a decision. You can make it right now. Kill the excuse. Resurrect yourself. That's the transformation, not the circumstance changing. You changing, the belief shifting, the story updating, the excuse, true or false, old or new, losing its authority over your next move. Kill the excuse. Resurrect yourself. Every excuse you keep is a future you've already surrendered. And every excuse you kill is a future you just reclaimed. You have a choice. Carry the excuse into the next decade, or bury it today alongside the old identity, the old silence breaking, the old environment, the old limitations. Bury all of it and walk forward clean. You've killed the excuses. You've done the autopsy. You've found the belief underneath the story and you've chosen it. But here's what comes next. Because once the excuses are gone, once the old reasons for staying small are cleared away, you will come face to face with the one thing more terrifying than failure. The possibility that you might actually succeed. And the fear of that, the fear of your own potential, is the last wall standing between you and everything you've been building toward. It's time to walk. Chapter 6. Discipline doesn't require motivation. It requires a system. You killed the excuses. You faced the fear. You chose the harder belief over the comfortable story. And now you're waiting. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting to feel motivated. Waiting for that electric surge of certainty that tells you today is the day. That this morning is different. That this time the feeling will last long enough to actually carry you somewhere. Stop waiting. Because that feeling is not coming. Not reliably. Not consistently. Not in the way you need it to sustain real, lasting, compounding transformation. And every day you spend waiting for it is a day the old version of you gets to stay alive a little longer. This is chapter 6, and this might be the chapter that saves you the most time, because what we're about to dismantle is the single most expensive habit you have, more costly than any vice, any distraction, any toxic relationship. The habit of waiting to feel ready. Let's end it today. Part 1. Motivation is weather. Systems are infrastructure. Let me ask you something honest. How many times have you felt genuinely motivated, truly fired up, locked in, unstoppable, and then watched that feeling evaporate within 48 hours? How many Monday mornings became Tuesday afternoons became? I'll restart next week. How many times did the motivation arrive like a thunderstorm? Loud, electric, impossible to ignore, and then disappear just as fast, leaving the ground exactly as dry as before. That's not a character flaw. That's weather. Motivation is a weather pattern. It comes. It goes. It is beautiful when it arrives and completely unreliable as a foundation for anything permanent. You cannot schedule motivation. You cannot manufacture it on demand. You cannot build a life on something that operates on its own timetable with no regard for yours. But you can build a system, and systems don't care about the weather. Don't wait to feel like it. Build so you can't avoid it. Look at the people performing at the highest level in any field. Elite athletes, prolific founders, artists who have produced extraordinary work for decades. Ask any of them if they wait for inspiration before they begin. Ask the marathon runner if they only train when they feel like running. Ask the author if they only write when the words feel like they want to come. Ask the surgeon if they only operate when they're in the mood. The answer is always the same. They don't wait. They show up. Not because they feel ready. Because the system demands it. Because the schedule says so. Because the structure they built makes the alternative, not showing up, more difficult than simply doing the thing. They didn't build discipline through willpower. They built environments and schedules and commitments that made discipline the path of least resistance. Don't wait to feel like it. Build so you can't avoid it. That's the key. Motivation is the spark. Systems are the engine. And you don't drive a car on sparks. You drive it on an engine that runs whether you feel inspired or exhausted, whether the day is perfect or falling apart, whether you slept 8 hours or 4. Build the engine. Stop chasing the spark. You have a choice. Wait for motivation, or build the system that makes waiting irrelevant. Part 2. Survive the start. The system does the rest. Here is the piece of information that should have been taught to you years ago. The piece that would have saved you from 100 false starts and abandoned commitments. The first 2 days are the hardest. That's it. Neuroscience has mapped the habit loop with precision. Cue, routine, reward. And what the research consistently shows is that habit loops begin to automate within 48 to 72 hours of consistent repetition. Not weeks, not months. 2 to 3 days of doing the same thing in the same sequence triggers the beginning of neurological automation. The brain starts to anticipate the routine, starts to prepare for it, starts to make it easier. But only if you survive the start. Survive the start. The system does the rest. This means your only real job, your singular, non-negotiable mission in the first 48 hours of any new behavior, is to not quit, not to do it perfectly, not to feel good about it, not to be inspired by it, just to do it once and then again. That's the entire assignment. Because here's what happens when you make it through day 1 and day 2. Day 3 is slightly easier. Day 4 easier still. By day 7, the behavior starts to feel strange to skip. By day 10, the absence of the behavior creates discomfort. The system has taken root. The automation has begun. And the motivation you were waiting for at the start, it arrives not as a precondition for action, but as a byproduct of it. You don't get motivated and then take action. You take action and then get motivated. It's not about feeling ready. It's about showing up before you're ready and letting the readiness follow. Survive the start. The system does the rest. You have a choice. Quit on day 1 because it feels hard. Or understand that day 1 feeling hard is not a sign that it's not working. It's a sign that it's working exactly as it should. That's the key. Part 3. The non-negotiable stack. Here is your architecture, the spine of this entire transformation. The daily structure that, if you execute it without exception for 10 days, will begin to rewire the operating system of your identity from the inside out. It is called the non-negotiable stack, and it works because it is simple, sequential, and absolutely non-negotiable. 3 actions. Every day. Same sequence. No exceptions. No negotiations. Action 1. The physical non-negotiable. Every single day, you move your body with intention. Not for an hour. Not a full workout, if that's not where you are. The minimum is 20 minutes of deliberate physical effort. A walk at pace. A budiwet circuit. A run. Whatever the form, the rule is non-negotiable. Physical movement first thing in the morning signals to your nervous system that today is a day of action, not passivity. It sets the neurochemical tone for every decision that follows. You're not doing this to get fit. You're doing this to tell your brain who is in charge of this body. Action 2. The cognitive non-negotiable. Every single day, you feed your mind something that serves your transformation. Not the news. Not social media. Not content that entertains the old version of you. 10 pages of a book. A focused 30-minute deep work session on your most important goal. A journal entry where you write, by hand, 3 things you are executing today and 1 belief you're choosing to reinforce. The cognitive non-negotiable is the daily reprogramming. It is how you keep the new identity sharp and the old one from growing back. Action 3. The eliminative non-negotiable. Every single day, you remove 1 thing that belongs to who you were. 1 hour less of mindless consumption. 1 fewer excuse spoken out loud. 1 notification turned off. 1 boundary held that you would have collapsed before. The elimination is not dramatic. It is quiet and daily and cumulative. And it is what keeps the old environment from rebuilding itself around you while you're not paying attention. 3 actions. Same sequence. Every day. Non negociable means non negociable. No exceptions. No negotiations. Not when you're tired. Not when you traveled. Not when the day went sideways before noon. Not when you're emotional, overwhelmed, or running on empty. The stack does not care about your circumstances. That is precisely what makes it powerful. Non negociable means non negociable. No exceptions. No negotiations. Because the moment you start negotiating with your system, you're no longer running a system. You are running the same old pattern with better vocabulary. And the old pattern knows how to win that negotiation. It has been winning it for years. Don't give it the chance. Don't wait to feel like it. Build so you can't avoid it. Survive the start. The system does the rest. You have a choice. Negotiate or execute. You have the system. You have the stack. You have the architecture that makes discipline automatic and motivation irrelevant. But here's the next wall. Because as the system starts working, as the results start showing up, something unexpected happens. The people around you will begin to react. Some will celebrate, but others will do something far more dangerous. They will need you to stop, and you need to know exactly how to handle that without losing everything you've built. 10 days ago, you were someone else. Think about that. You made a decision, maybe small, maybe terrified, maybe uncertain, and you began. And now you are standing in a different body, with a different mind, looking back at a version of yourself that no longer has jurisdiction over your life. That person is gone. And here is what I need you to hear before we close. This is not the end of the process. This is proof of what the process produces. You have just demonstrated to yourself, with no external validation required, that the person you always said you wanted to become is not a fantasy. They're a choice, a repeatable, daily, non-negotiable choice. So here is your challenge, not for the next 10 days, for the rest of your life. Every single morning, ask yourself one question. Does the decision I'm about to make belong to who I was or who I'm becoming? Answer it correctly. Every time, no exceptions, no negotiations, no nostalgia. You're not going back. There is nothing back there for you. Now go. Become unrecognizable. Again.